in anticipation of what's coming up just in a few days' time. And we're going to be anticipating Mandela Day, a time when South Africans and people around the world are called to dedicate 67 minutes in honor of Nelson Mandela's 67 years of service. But service is not something that actually is done just for 67 minutes, right? There are individuals that are doing it throughout the year and just giving us light in terms of how we see the world and ourselves. And Brent Lindeque is one of those, better known as the Good Things Guy, and he brings the spirit of kindness and compassion right in our faces. Brent has become a beacon of positivity in South Africa and beyond, using his platform to highlight the good, inspire change, and remind us that all that we need are small actions, and that these small actions can make a big difference. As we approach Mandela Day, we all have to be reinvigorated to remind ourselves of actually bringing that light. Anticipating that beautiful day, Brent joins us on the line. Hey, Brent, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for such a incredible introduction. I know that sometimes in interviews, people can say that's the best introduction I've ever heard, but in this case, it definitely is. So thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on the show.
Yeah, and you know what? It's pretty cool to know that there are people like you out there who are doing it, because most of the time we think the news cycle always has to be controversial. The news cycle always has to make us feel rather that we are on edge, and that's how we validate that something is news. However, you say, no, it's more than that.
Absolutely. So it was around about 11 years ago when my life really changed, when it thrust me into this good news space. It took a while to really start Good Things Guy as a platform, but in 2014, that's exactly what I did. And we're almost coming up to my birthday. So we got Nelson Mandela Day happening on the 18th. And then on the 1st of August, we celebrate 10 years of Good Things Guy.
Nice.
What started as a simple idea to share one good news story with South Africa and the world has turned into what has become South Africa's top good news site. And it's exactly what you said right there, right? So the bad news, those headlines seem to trend. They seem to be top level. It's what we speak about. But in reality, there are good things happening all around us. And shining a light on those stories gives us a bit of balance in a world that can often feel like it's very hard. So yeah, maybe good news was never meant to sell, but it certainly does, and people are appreciative to share those good news stories with each other.
So what was that life-changing event that made you take this direction, Brent?
So there was a viral online trend, one of the first, the biggest, that really took hold of the world, called neck nominations. The idea was simple and pretty silly. Drink as much as you possibly could, alcohol, do something silly on video while you were doing that act, and then nominate people to outdo what you had just done. And at first there were, I don't know, a couple of 100,000, and then millions of people that joined this trend from all around the world. It originated originally from Australia, but I mean, the whole world was getting involved in it, including South Africans. And I was watching these videos on my social media from South Africa, and I just thought to myself, like, we can do it better, right? We can do it better. Yeah. So that's exactly what I decided to do. Instead of drinking, I fed a homeless person, not with the intention to make it a thing or I don't know. I didn't know where it would go.
Yeah.
And I did that. I filmed it. I put it up onto my first YouTube video that I'd ever shared, and I went viral. I woke up the next day and the video had hundreds and thousands of views, and there were all these missed calls on my phone from international numbers, from news stations, both locally and abroad, that wanted to tell my story about how, I would say, a very average South African managed to change a global game. And all of a sudden, millions of people, instead of drinking, they decided to commit random acts of kindness. And that's really where the journey changed for me. It's where I was thrust into this good news space. And like I said, it took a bit of time. I got given a radio show and I was doing a couple of TV things. But eventually, on the 1st of August 2015, I launched by myself back then. Now we're a team. I launched goodthingsguy.com.
Well, Brent, as you said, and we've been saying as well, we're looking up to the 18th of July, which is Mandela Day, where sort of the entire world gives themselves 67 minutes to do good. But usually we don't really know how to. I feel like we've gotten so obsessed with ourselves and our own lives that even when we want to do good, we're not sure how to. So we go out there on social media, see what other people are doing. Is this the right thing for me to do if I'm doing good? What does doing good actually mean to you, and how do we do it?
I love that you've asked this question because sometimes it can feel like the need is so far greater than what we could possibly assist with.
Yeah.
We see it everywhere, right? It doesn't matter what your day is like. You're going to see the need in South Africa, whether it's in real life or in social media, in messages. You see it, and that can feel incredibly overwhelming. And that's why I want to tell you that good things start with the smallest ideas. It's giving back, it's being kind, it's smiling at a stranger when you're standing in the grocery queue. It's not always about the millions of rands. Those are great that get raised to make a difference. Sometimes it's just about being kind. That's where it starts. And from there, when we start to give back and start to do good with what we have, I don't know, 5 rand, 10 rand, giving a person a meal, those little ripples of goodness and kindness can become huge waves that really assist South Africans where they need it most.
All right, we're going to take a break in a bit. But before we do that, I mean, you say it's about being kind. And sometimes, I have those moments, Brent, myself, where I ask myself, am I a good person, right? And we all sort of think that, right? Am I
I
a
don't
good
think
person?
so, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I'm kidding.
And I get to ask myself that sometimes. And when we think about doing good, we don't often reflect on our own kindness or our own goodness and how we can share that with others.
No, we don't. And I think that's where we need some introspection. That's where we need to look at who we are as human beings and what we do during the day, and how we interact with other people around us. I believe in my heart of hearts that absolutely everybody is inherently good. It's inside of us. And sometimes we overlook simple interactions that are actually very meaningful to those around us. So even though you might not think you're a good person, I think if you reflect back on the day, you'll know that you definitely are.
All right, Brent, stay on the line with us. We're going to take a short break and come back speaking all things good with Brent Lindeque. Stay with us. We're chatting to the good things guy, Brent Lindeque, this morning right here on The Move. And we're speaking about doing good, acts of kindness. This is as we approach Nelson Mandela Day that's taking place on the 18th of July. It is an annual day where people all across the world take 67 minutes to do good in their communities, in their countries, in their world. And we're speaking about, the reflection of doing good and what that actually means. So how can people build that community spirit through collective giving, Brent?
Well, I think that's exactly it, right? It's about that collective community spirit. When you see someone in need, when you see people around you and you're able to assist those people, that's how we start to create change. And when we can do it as a group, then that change becomes a lot bigger. Nelson Mandela Day is such a great inspiration to sort of get us going. And then hopefully, once you've started those 67 minutes on the 18th, it starts to become a little bit more of your lifestyle that you give back and do good as a collective effort by a community. I want to say this, right? I think it was Nelson Mandela who said that we should all aim to leave places and people and things better than we found them. That needs to be our legacy as a community. And that needs to be something we think about more than just one day a year. And that's why 67 minutes is an inspiration for us to make collective change.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you do this on a daily basis. I'm looking at your website, goodthingsguide.com, and it's fascinating. I mean, you've got stories from, the elderly who are just actually being supported there in terms of their crafting and also supporting them in terms of their income. You've got stories of thrifting that's changing lives. but someone who was in the Comrades and actually tore his calf 6K in and still finished the race, and he was doing it for a charity. What do these stories do to you? I mean, sometimes I'm sure you also have those bad days, but I'm sure these are a great lift me up for you as well, Brent.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I've found in the last 10 years. I like to say, and I've got a team now that are writing all those stories. So when you started mentioning them, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope I read through them and I know what's going on, because the full team are bringing those stories
Wonderful
to South
stories,
Africa and the world. Wonderful stories every single day. But what they do for me is they first and foremost make me think that I have possibly got the best job in the world, and I'm able to surround myself with so much good news. And to your question, what does that do to me from a mental health point of view? Should I be having a bad day? It changes it completely. It gives me a different perspective. It makes me feel hopeful. It brings smiles. Sometimes it brings laughter. And I'm in it, right? So I've been doing this for the last decade, but it does, and I know this, exactly the same thing for everybody else. Good news stories, inspirational stories, seeing people do good things, it really does something to the inside of our souls. It changes the way we see the world, and it makes us believe that we can do the same. Going back to the start of the interview, where we spoke about making a difference and these big, overwhelming ideas that perhaps it feels like it's too much. We just can't get to all of it. The reality is that these silly little small stories make us realize that the smallest things are actually the biggest things. And those are the things that we can make a difference with.
Brent, part of the art of giving is giving from a heartfelt place. And so that's what we hear. But of course, with the rise of social media, when people give, they like to document it. And sometimes it can be seen as clout chasing. Why do you only give when it needs to be seen on social media, when you need to show people that you are giving? Are you giving without the cameras? Are you giving without the mics? Let's speak a little bit about that. Is giving still heartfelt if it is done for the eyes of others, or is that just spreading positivity?
Yes, see, this is such a grappling question, and it's something that I've thought about often, right? Because my whole life changed because I documented a moment where I was giving someone something instead of drinking. A little sort of T's and C's. I've never done it again.
Okay.
So 11 years ago, that was one video that I put up there. It didn't become my thing. It wasn't like me running around giving people stuff for the benefit of clout. But it did change my life. That one moment changed my life, and it thrust me into this space where it now has created a platform where over 30 million people a month are being inspired by the content that we write, and the content and the stories that we get to tell. Some of those stories are of people who have filmed themselves or got behind a mic or put up a TikTok or something or other. And here's what I want to say. Sometimes it can look like it's people chasing for clout, and maybe it is. Maybe it's people doing good because they want that clout. But the reality is, at the end of the day, there are two things happening. One, that good deed is helping whoever it was intended to help. And the second is that act, that video, that recording is going to inspire others.
Yeah.
So that's the reality that we've seen on our side. Even when we write stories about people who are in the situation, sort of filming themselves and it becomes their thing, they are helping the person on the other end, and they are inspiring people as well. So maybe take it for what it is, right? It's an inspirational act that makes us all feel like we can do it as well.
Yeah. You know, Brent, there's also a proverb that goes, no good deed goes unpunished. And sometimes that can happen in instances where you are trying, in the most heartfelt way to do good for someone, but perhaps not in the way that they need. And sometimes it might actually be to the detriment of that particular person. So you go to a community and maybe you have like 50 bags of maize and you just go and, put it to this family. And then maybe people just come crashing into this family, take all the maize, leave the place untidy, all the maize is spilled everywhere. And the person that you actually went to give to is left not just without maize, but with this mess that they have to clean up. And they're like, I wish Brent never came with this maize to my house. So let's chat about that. The importance of also giving within context and wanting to understand the stories of people and not just performatively giving.
Absolutely. So I think the main keyword here and something that I focus on, especially when telling these stories, is sustainability. What is this going to do in the long run? Is it something that's just flash in the pan? Am I going to this person's house and handing over maize? Or is it a program or a campaign where it's more than just a once-off, where there's something to build from that, where it creates a difference that's more than just a moment? And I think that's so important when it comes to giving, when it comes to doing good, when it comes to giving back, is that we have to think about the longevity of it. It can't be a one-off. It can't be without context, as you say. It has to be, everything needs to be taken into account to make sure that it is ultimately helping the person who needs the help in the right way, but also far more greater is that it's sustainable, that it's something that we can do now and that it can still move forward in some way.
Hey, every day we are bombarded with a lot of negativity. It's the news cycle. That's just definitely the cycle of news, as I mentioned earlier on. What do you think is the trickle effect of what the good news can do for us on a daily basis? Because we always say that bad news or bad things actually have huge consequences, but we never give the same credit to good news. What is your agenda moving forward here in terms of what you think the trickling effect will be?
So the first thing I want to say here is news is important. The headlines that make us scared, the things that make us angry, whatever those stories are, those news stories, they are important. We need to know what's going on around us in order to have a perspective of our world and maybe try and fix it in some way. We can't fix things if we don't know what's broken, right? So we have to know what's going on around us. The second part of that is I believe that good news should be as important as those hard news lines. And that for me, the reason is it gives us balance. It makes us see the world in a different light. It makes us realize that there's more to us than just one story. There's a fantastic African quote that says, one story is incredibly dangerous because it doesn't show the full part of who we are. We're complex. We're all complex. So the first thing is balance is important. And the second thing is good news will change your perspective on the world. It makes us happier. I can see you smiling as I'm saying this because you're thinking about it. You're thinking about good news. And it really does. It gives us hope. It can make a day seem a little less hard. And it's as important. So we need to be sharing those good news stories too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brent. Before we wrap up, tell us where we can go. Which platforms do you disseminate this amazing good news that you have?
You can find us everywhere. It's quite crazy how the Little Good Things Guy universe has grown into something far greater. The website itself is goodthingsguy.com, but we are on every single social media site. We are on all of the platforms, the podcasts, the YouTubes, the Facebooks, everything. You can find us everywhere. Just search for Good Things Guy. And you can get your dose of good news.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time, Brent. That's Brent Lindeque, better known as the Good Things Guy, who used his platform to highlight the good, inspire change, and remind us all that small actions can make a big difference. It's 10:30 Central Africa time. Let's keep things moving with our latest sports news.